It's spring football time in the Bluegrass. I'm Nick Roush, he's Adam Luckett, and today we got to watch some of the Kentucky Wildcats in action over at the Joe Kraft football training facility. And Luckett, it was our first chance to see a lot of these new guys up close in person. It is just spring football, but it's still fun to see some of these new guys out there in action, like Brock Vandegrift, like big old Pop Dumas Johnson, some big old boys. And I don't know if I have any grandiose takeaways that are going to change my outlook on the schedule and the final record, but it was good to just go out there, hear the pads popping, see the defensive linemen punching the wall to get their hands ready, because that's a fierce-looking defensive line. I think they got a solid ball club coming up this year, like it.
Yeah, I think the big takeaway today was mainly this was a nice little appetizer. Nice little football appetizer here.
Little treat.
To get the month of April started. Next week we'll be right there in that stadium next Saturday. Really just kind of get to see the new faces, right? Bush Hamden, get to see him actually coach out on the field with the team. Eric Wolford, a familiar face, but still a new face for this year's team.
Dykill Shorts, same way. See how he works with those guys.
And so, Nick, I would say that was a very fundamental-driven practice.
Very much so. And I wasn't joking about punching the walls. Like, literally, the defensive line was just, hitting the wall. You got to get those hands hard, ready to hit SEC defensive linemen. I noticed Bush, there was a lot of teaching moments. I'm not sure how much of that is just for spring ball versus for whenever the season starts, right? How much will that be a part of their fall camp? Because you're right, this is spring. It is all about the fundamentals, doing things the right way. But we got to talk about some of the individuals. Like, people always want to talk about the quarterback. Is Brock Vandegrift going to win the Heisman? Probably not. But I will say, in just the limited time that we did get to watch him, looks pretty good to me. I'd say solid. I'm not ready to make grand proclamations like I did a year ago with Devin Leary, but look, it's a very compact throwing motion. He's a big guy who gets the ball on time. I didn't see any issues with him hitting his targets. Saw Fred Farrier make a nice catch on a hitch, too, during a team period where that's the only place he can get the ball. So far, no complaints, but I did want to see him just rear back and hit somebody on a post. We did not get to see that today. Yeah. It was, like it said, just a little appetizer.
And while you were watching the quarterbacks, I was down with the big guys, watching the offensive line, because that's everyone's really one of the bigger questions, I think. There's three big questions really surrounding this team. It's Brock Vandegrift, it's offensive line, and then it's cornerback. Mm-hmm. Got to watch the offensive line a little bit. I came away impressed with Jalen Farmer. I think he kind of looks the part there. Competing for one of those guard spots inside next to Eli Cox. So he's a guy that I think we could look up week one and he's a starter. He looked the part, athletically looked the part, physically looked the part, I thought.
He was at right in Jagger's old position. Yeah. Jagger was at left, where Kenneth Horsey and Dylan Ray operated most of last year out of. Just the inside run game in general was pretty good. Mm-hmm. Between Jason Patterson, the freshman who we've heard a lot about, he ripped up a couple nice runs. Chip Trainum, that dude.
That's what I was about to say. It does, not even from any football activity standpoint, just when they're standing out there stretching, he just looks physically bigger than the rest of the backs in that position room. So that was noticeable to me. Yeah,
and then Jamarion Wilcox, who's a guy that we had a lot of high hopes for, a lot of high expectations for when he came out of high school. Didn't hear much from him at all as a redshirt freshman year, and he's running with the twos, so it's a little bit different. But you're like, oh, I could see that. He looks like he could play.
When he runs, he gets the extremely high knees, almost like he's being dramatic with the high knees. It reminds me of Isaiah Pacheco.
Oh, really? Just mad at the ground, just stomping around.
Has a little bit of that running style.
I'm
not saying he's Isaiah Pacheco, but I'm just saying knee up to foot to the ground. That it reminded me of him, of watching Pacheco when he was just running through kind of the little team period there. I was like, whoa, that kind of looks like Pacheco.
If I had any grandiose takeaways, I don't have anything on your corners because it sounds like a lot of them were dinged up. You had a
Jansen Dunn going sliding inside outside. They're kind of tinkering with him with that spot right now.
Right, but for the most part, it's hard for me to be with the secondary in general. You just didn't really know what you got out there. I did find it interesting just where the tight ends were lining up. You had Josh Caddis, who was lined up like a traditional split-end tight end, but he would be in a two-point stance. He was out in the slot a lot, kind of in a flexed outlook, along with Kamari Anderson and Jordan Dingle. They were running a lot of guys in and out of that spot. So it's
good to see all those guys healthy because they had all battled injuries last year.
I don't think any of them were available for spring. Yeah. Remember, Isaiah Cummings was doing all the running.
So it was good to see Jordan Dingle, Caddis, all of them out there full go today.
And so like we said, it was an appetizer. It was a nice one. I do think there might be something to be said for Kentucky being able to run the ball against a pretty stout front. But is Deion Walker going to be out there busting heads? I don't think so. It's spring ball, right? Like, why go risk it? But just the look of those guys, when you've got Pop Dumas Johnson in the middle there, he's as big as JJ on the edge, right? Yeah. And you got Fearby bending it. The other new guy, I mean, Brian Robinson and Gerard Smith, look at those guys. They don't look like freshmen.
They look the part, yeah.
They don't look like freshmen at all. So it was a nice start, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got our toes wet. I'm getting excited about next Saturday.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm very interested to see how they kind of mix the teams up, because that's the thing with a spring game. Is it really, are we going to get ones on ones or get ones on twos, or is it just going to be a total mix match teams? So definitely interested to see how they do it. And heck, we haven't had one of these really. I mean, the last spring game didn't even feel like a spring game because
it snowed on our way into the game.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful day today. Hopefully we get similar weather next week, and hopefully they just let Brock just pull the pin and chuck it downfield, right? We want bombs. We want Barryon running fast.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people, I think you do want to see Barryon Brown and Denke. I think you also want to see some of the young guys, right? Like Harley Gilmore, we've heard a lot about him. You want to see what Chip Trainum has.
Fred Farrier was in a lot.
Fred Farrier was getting a lot of reps today, number 13, the UAB transfer, Franklin County alum. But yeah, you just want to see some of the news guys get involved and get some action, and we'll get to see that next week at Kroger Field.
1 p.m. next Saturday at Kroger Field, free admission. Parking's free. Just come up, show up, and enjoy watching some football. Because is there anything better than spring football in the Bluegrass? Yes, there are things. Real football, like the fall football. But you can't turn down a good appetizer. Luckett favorite appetizer.
I mean, you can't beat chips and queso.
See, you're a chips and queso guy. I'm a fried pickle guy. The good thing is
yeah, they're up there. That's up there. Pretzels are growing on me. That's chasing the queso down.
Oh, do you like the big pretzel that you pull apart, or the little pretzel bites?
Both. I mean, I don't discriminate against pretzel. Good, hot, soft pretzel.
I mean, the best part too is just the cheese that comes with it.
I tell you who has a good hot pretzel. This place right here. They've got some good hot pretzels.
On a cold day, it hits the spot. Nothing hits the spot quite like a little bit of football after a gloomy March. So hopefully the spring blooms eternal. Blooms eternal. Is that it?
I have no idea if you said that right, but
yeah. Well, we'll just go with it. Spring football is back. We'll see you here next week at Kroger Field.